What's up, everybody? Thanks for tuning in. I'm Corey, co-founder of Stylez. Today is our 5th live event we're doing in partnership with Milady. We're really excited for it today because it's our first time to do everything barbering. And it's going to be spectacular in partnership with L3VEL3, an amazing brand, and one of the most creative barbers in the land, Carlos Estrella, aka Los Cut It. So he's going to do some really practical things that all of you can benefit from, including some fades and some barber work, but then also some flashy, cool stuff. You guys can learn some new things and maybe even apply to have some cool social content for you, which includes the hair design portion of it. So it's going to be really, really fun. Watch to the very end because you'll be able to get a certificate of this. When you get that, take a picture, post it, tag Stylez app, tag Milady Education, tag Los Cut It, tag L3VEL3 Pro, and you will get reposted, recognized, because you deserve awareness and recognition for investing in yourself and investing in your skills and your talent in the industry. So we're excited to be here. We're in Stylez Studio in beautiful Miami, Florida. We have a full production team. A lot of the L3VEL3 team is here. There's like 15 people in the studio today, I think. So it's going to be a blast. A bit about us, like this is what we do. Our mission as a company at Stylez is to help people in the beauty industry be successful and achieve their dreams. So we do that through a variety of ways in our app, most of which is engaging with awesome brands and educators like you guys are going to see today. We do interviews with them to get advice, insights, tips about professionalism, getting clients, doing good hair, and doing good things in the beauty industry. And then also, we do amazing and hundreds of tutorials. So step by step to show people how to do the looks their clients are asking for. So this is our way to get back to the industry and help people level up their skills, level up their confidence, and achieve the dreams that you all deserve in this industry. So we're really excited. Thank you, Milady. Thank you, L3VEL3, for participating. And I want to bring up the man of the hour, the GOAT, Carlos Estrella. Mr. Los Cut It, please.
What's up, man? How are you? What's up, everybody? How's everybody doing?
They're great, I'm sure. Some of them are in class. Some of them are maybe at home, on the bus, who knows? Everybody's from different things. So we have a big audience. And so we have a guy here who has a really, although he looks like he's 20, he has a lot of experience. What is your background in barbering?
Hair in general, 23 years. I grew up on it. It's all I ever did. We spoke earlier, I mentioned from the age of 12 to the age of 34 now, 23 years I've been doing number hair. Never had a real job. And I quote on that, real job, because no one ever took cutting hair seriously. So I was able to do that with passion and discipline, and now we're here. We're here today.
Yeah, the industry's really changed for a lot of you because what was before like, oh, he said the word earlier, just a barber. Now that's an opportunity to make $100,000 a year because the industry has changed. It's more dynamic and there's more opportunity in the beauty industry now than there ever has been before. Absolutely. He's one of the leaders who made all this possible because you not only do great hair, not only professional, but you also do a lot of great content, social, and education.
Yeah, so as many of you guys would probably know, especially if you guys have been doing hair for quite a while, it's really easy to get burnt out, especially if you're constantly doing the same thing over and over. So I found great ways to expand my knowledge in just photography, videography, and other things that can complement my hair cutting. And when I did that, I was able to light that fire back up countless of times. And I think that's important for a lot of us to do is if you're feeling burnt out and you're feeling like you're doing this too much or you're no longer in love with it, find a way to complement what you already do because it's very easy to go into something that anyone else can do, but it's better if you just stick to a skill that very few people can acquire.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when you get bored, try things like you're gonna see him do today as hair design. It's not traditional barbering, but it's a way now that like you can stand out, you'll learn some cool tricks with clippers and different tools, and you can apply those, and it's a really great way to get attention on social from your clients, things like that. And so you're based in Chicago.
Yes, sir.
There's a big barber industry from Chicago, right? It seems like one of the biggest places for barbering.
It's a major barbering hotspot. The only problem is that it's a lot of people that aren't on social media. So you get like Florida and other states have really big, famous social media known barbers. Chicago's more like underground. There's very few people that are known socially, but if you're from Chicago, you know how big the barbering industry is. Mm-hmm. And I just wish, you know, we kind of all just teamed up and take over the world the way I feel like Chicago has some of the best barbers out there. And Too many people are just too focused on being low key and working behind a chair, which is okay.
Yeah, he says that, but he's also part of L3VEL3, which has some of the biggest barbers in the world, one of the biggest barber brands in the world. And you guys are taking over the world of barbering.
Little by little, one haircut at a time is what we say.
Yeah,
one haircut at a time.
All right, so listen, all of you in the platform you're watching on, please chat, ask questions. Please be patient. We will try to get to all of them, but we'll just try and, I'll still be mic'd up. I won't be on camera, and I'll interrupt you here and there with some of the questions from all of you. So please chime in as much as you can. We love to get that feedback. And it's your opportunity to pick the brain of one of the leading creative barbers in the land. So I think now we should take the opportunity to bring up the model, Kevin.
Yeah, Kevin, make your way out here. So this is our model, Kevin.
I'm gonna let you guys have at it, so have fun.
Awesome. Well guys, you guys are with me for the next 90 minutes. First things first, I'm gonna go ahead and apply the cape. Just get it off the bat. Now, there are people out there that are very unfamiliar with properly applying a cape and a neck strip. So we're gonna go ahead and start off with basic fundamentals, which I think are very important. The goal, obviously, when you apply a cape is to not let the cape touch the actual skin, which is why we apply neck strips. And this, we got our level 3 pink neck strips. Very simple to do. I strongly recommend neck strips that have the glue on there. Very simple, it doesn't come off in mid haircut. You can just simply have them raise their neck. Just by, notice how I'm just going over, they already know to raise their neck. Sometimes people will be on their phone and their chin will be down. And if you're not really paying attention to them and they're not paying attention to you, it's very easy to just boom. See that? So be very aware that they raise their neck up. You give it a light stretch without choking them. Now you also have to understand, it's very important. There are people out there that have this, what's the word I'm looking for? This phobia of being choked. And I've only experienced that with experience. I had a client of mine that hated anything too tight around his neck, and every time he never really said anything, but every time I would do a neck strip or a cape, he would always put his hand here, and I never understood that until one day I got to speak with him and had a proper consultation, and he broke down the fact that he doesn't like anything. So be aware of things like that. It's going to be things like that. They're going to catch you off guard, and you just got to know how to work with them. Once you apply that cape over, all you have to do is simply bend over the neck strip, and now the cape does not touch the neck. And we're ready to go. I'm gonna go ahead and face him to the front. Very important to do when you have a client, similar to this. This is an everyday type of hairstyle that comes into the shop today. My goal with this is to analyze it first. Right off the bat, I can tell, one, he just got cut not so long ago, so you can see this part, this line, this design, whatever terminology you wanna use, and then you can also see where the blend was on this side. So right off the bat, get an idea of what he normally gets. And some of you guys are probably asking, well, what is it that you're gonna cut if his hair is already short? What is it that you're gonna show us? What we're gonna do now, we're gonna transition, we're gonna get rid of this design, and we're gonna blend this up. So I can share with you guys how to go ahead about, how to go with one, removing an old design that's been about a week old, fading that up, and then on the other side, we're gonna go ahead and create a step-by-step fade, where we're gonna add a little touch, a signature touch that'll make you stand out. And create a nice little small design, nothing too major, but just something that'll give it a low-cutted touch is what I like to say. Then at the very end, we're gonna go ahead and throw a little bit of more texture. Running my fingers through his hair, I could already tell he's got very fine hair. So it's not thick. It's very easy to control. I can put any type of product, light, heavy, and I can manipulate it any way I want. So by adding more texture, it's just gonna help it hold on whatever style I want, and we're gonna go ahead and style it, finish it. And if there's time, which I hope there's time, we're gonna go ahead and just bring the beard to life by adding slight color enhancement. So that's gonna be the goal for today. Now, first things first, let's get the basic fundamentals on starting off a fade. I'm gonna go ahead and grab my trimmers. Of course. We got our trimmer set here. Normally, I would ask for you guys to draw a guideline, but because there's already multiple guidelines on here, the goal is how can we eliminate that without still seeing what he had already. If you were to draw a guideline right off the bat, if you didn't have this design, there are 3 types of fades that you have to understand out there. There's a low fade, a mid fade, a high fade. I'm gonna say that one more time. A low fade, mid fade, high fade. So the best way to determine where you want your guideline to be is you place 4 fingers over the person's ear, right? And if I raise all my 3 fingers and leave the pinky right where that pinky line is, that's where you want to draw your low fade guideline, which will be right underneath the temple, but above the ear. If you put your ring finger on there, right at the corner of the temple where the line is already there, that's where you want your mid-fade guideline. And if I place that middle finger right there, right underneath the parietal ridge before the curve of the head, that's where you want your outline for a high fade. I always draw my guidelines with a drop right at the occipital bone. The reason why I choose the occipital bone is because, where to find the occipital bone, you simply place your comb on there, and where the comb leaves the head, that's gonna help us create a nice silhouette. You don't wanna push the fade too high up unless it's requested. You always wanna create a nice curvature in the back. Some people have flatter heads, and for that purpose, you always wanna create a nice round silhouette. Now, because like I mentioned, he has his guideline, and it's right above the occipital bone. Normally, I would start it right here and finish it where the bottom line is, but we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna diffuse this heavy weight line. How do we do that? By starting with our biggest clip that I normally would use before I transition into shear work. So normally, I always tell people this: what's the best way to transition from clippers to shears or from shears to clippers? Is to finding out what your finger length guard is. Now, if you don't know what I mean is, if I were to grab a number 4, because that's my finger length guard, and I drop that 4 into a 4.5 simply by raising the lever, that means that if I went in there with my shears and cut finger length all the way down to my finger, all around his whole head, it'll be equivalent as if I grabbed my number 4 and ran it through. So the reason why I'm sharing that with you guys is that every time you run a number 4, if someone had a lot more hair, or what we have here, if you run that number 4, that's gonna help us transition over direct the top and use that finger length 4 as our guideline to start transitioning to the top and using shear work. You get that? And then from that number 4, all we have to do is work our way down from a 4 to a 3 to a 2 to a 1 to a 0, and now we're able to fade that out. So just to give you guys an example, I'm gonna go ahead and brush the hair forward. Now, I don't think this is a number 4, but we're gonna go ahead and run it anyway just to make sure. It might cut a little bit off, but from then we're gonna immediately go to our number 3 and so on. So I got the 4.5, it barely cut, I can hear it. What's important about cutting hair, no matter if you're at a busy salon or a barbershop, you will always hear it and feel it and see it. So use all your senses. If you no longer hear it or feel it, what does that mean? It's not cutting anything, so it's time to go to the next guard. Now, I'm not going with the round of the head. When you go to the round of the head, that's gonna do two things. It's gonna eliminate our square shape, and you wanna keep a square shape, especially when you're doing a gentleman, because you wanna keep a masculine look, a very sharp square box, but at the same time, it's gonna be a lot harder to blend in to the length that we have up here. So from that 4, and notice I'm going diagonal back, and sometimes I go diagonal forward. Hair does not grow from top to bottom. It does not go straight down. It goes from side to side. So sometimes going diagonal forward, diagonal back will help you cover all grounds. From the 4, we're gonna switch over to our number 3. And we're just gonna keep doing that until we get to our number 1. Once we get to our number 1, this should already be it should be lined up a little bit, enough to start fading our way up. So from our number 3, and notice, if you're not noticing it, I'm actually gonna turn him towards the front a little bit so you can see that I'm raking out. The reason why I rake out is so I'm not creating any new harsh lines. I'm creating a very slight graduation, allowing us to blend later. Same thing with this, you run the guard. If you no longer feel it cutting, we go from a 3.5 to a number 3, and we continue with the same steps. Every time you drop a size, a guard, you should always work a little lower than your previous section. It makes no sense to be up here with a 4 and then eventually put a number 2 on and still be up here. Our goal is to transition shorter as we go low. That was a 3, and from that 3, we're gonna go into our number 2, and we're gonna turn our number 2 into a 2.5. Now, some of you guys may be wondering, what are these levers? Why do we have levers on here? What does that mean? So this is what we call a half. So if we were to put a number 2 on here and we drop the lever, making the blade higher, it's a 2.5. Those halves are bridges that help us transition from one clip to another. So if you wanted to blend a number 2 into a 3, you have to drop the lever, creating a 2.5, allowing us to cross into the 3 to blend properly. So since we're working down, we're going from that 3 to a 2.5. After that 2.5, I'm gonna raise the lever, making it shorter, and we're gonna go down to a 2. So that 2.5, I'm gonna hear that cut. And once again, I'm flaking away, I'm flaking out. We're gonna flake away, brush the hair. Don't hear it cut anymore. Go into our 2, a little shorter. And work our way down. And then after that, we're gonna keep going into our 1.5. Now, our 1.5, if we raise the lever, that makes it close to a number 2. Not exactly the number 2, but just short enough to continue blending after our number 2. And we're gonna continue that. And the shorter we go, you're gonna start to notice our actual design getting lighter and easier to blend out. Now this is important. You can continue this technique without these lines even being here. If you're very, what's the word I'm looking for? If you're, intimidated by creating these bald fades and you hate creating your bald line and working your way up, then work your way down. Start from a big number, go all the way down to a half. Then when you get down to the half, which is probably about this length, now you can go up with the 0 and it'll be so much easier to blend that 0 into the half than the 0 into all of this. So understand that different people have different features, different hair textures, different, just different things that require different approaches every time you cut someone's hair. A lot of people ask, Los, how do you cut a fade? How do you do this? How do you do that? And it depends on the person. It would depend on the model. It would depend on the hair. So every person, every haircut requires a different approach, making it a personal haircut for every individual. Remember that. We're gonna go into our number 1.5. It's no longer cutting. So we're gonna bring it down to our 1.5, not the one that's closer to the 2. And we're gonna continue that. I'm gonna hear it just cut just a tad bit. And from that, we're gonna go into our number 1 guard. Now our number 1 guard, if I were to drop the lever, that also makes it a 1.5. But this 1.5 is just a tad bit shorter than that 1.5, allowing us to continue blending, working our way down. And this is where the magic starts to happen. This is where you start to see the change, where the lines start to slowly vanish and get lighter and disappear. So this is just our guide working our way down to disappear the lines. After this, we can always go back up and refine the fade, which is what we're gonna do. Once I don't hear that 1.5 cut anymore, we grab our lever, go up with it, making it an actual 1, which will be a lot shorter. And then now we're slowly working on that line. Now, a quick tip for you guys. If you guys ever wanna just blend, keep the butt of the clipper low. You see that? It allows me to blend. If you wanna focus on a certain area and you wanna eliminate that line or something, you lift the butt of the clipper up and now you're targeting a certain area. So key things to remember. And I'm just gonna keep flaking away, allowing us to continue with our square silhouette. All right. And then after that, what comes after our number 1 would be our 0.5, which is a shorter than number 1, but bigger than a half. So a half meaning no guard. And this is gonna allow us once again to continue blending shorter. I'm gonna keep going low. And this is where you start to see the lines get shorter, lighter, and easier to blend out. And then once that is, there's another step that I want to share with you guys. There is a 1/16 clip that is shorter than a 0.5, but bigger, just slightly bigger than our half, which is going to be crucial for this particular haircut because of what we got going on. So there's 1/16, it's a lot thinner. I'm just going to target. Now remember what I mentioned earlier about lifting the butt of your clipper up to target area instead of just blending it? So now the goal is just to target the area that's lined up, just to give it an actual blend. Right? Now, I'm also corner cutting. When working with detail, you have to corner cut. What do I mean by corner cutting? Corner cutting is equivalent to, for you hairstylists out there that have been doing hair, that longer hair, cosmetology licensed people that work with shears only. Sometimes when you prefer the detail, you want to go ahead and grab your shears and you start removing weight. Now this is an awesome technique. I do it all the time, but this requires you to manually utilize your thumb. which is okay. But over the years and years and years of doing it, it could take effect on your hands. The clipper, all you have to do is turn it on, adjust your level, and now you're corner cutting. Same as that concept without the thumb usage. So now I'm gonna put my clip back on here, and I'm only gonna focus on the first 3 blades, or teeth, I should say. And now we're focusing on detail work. See that? Once we finish with that, you don't want it to be 100% perfect. I think a lot of the times people try to perfect everything at once, right off the bat, and when you stare at something for too long, it's very easy to get tunnel vision and get lost in it until the person stands up or different lighting hits them and you start seeing mistakes. The reason why is because you're focused on it for too long in one area. If you just did 80% of the job on one side, just 80, good enough for you to be like, it looks good, and then you moved over to the other side and worked on that, I guarantee you by the time you come back to this side, you're gonna see mistakes, you're gonna see flaws, you're gonna see things you didn't see before, and that's what we call fresh eyes. When you have a fresh pair of eyes, you start to see things that you didn't see before. So I'm never too hard on myself working on one side for too long. My goal is to get it right where I want and do that. Once we get rid of the 116, now I'm in there with no guard. This is a half. And now our goal is to eliminate the bottom line all the way.
Lois, can you jump into a little bit about the clipper you're using? People are curious about it and the settings and everything.
Of course. So I am currently using a Babyliss Custom FX Metal Edition clipper. This is customizable. It's a silver gunmetal with a hint of red. And I also have another one that I customize, which is a all white with gold and a black handle on it. These are awesome. Babyliss has an app now that allows you to customize any of your clippers. I do recommend them. You can customize the blade on them as well. This is why I have 2 different clippers. One's a fading blade to get more of skin type fade. One's more of a round clipper that doesn't really get too sharp if you don't zero gap it. So having both, it's always gonna be great. Now that we're back at our half, you start to notice how that original guideline starts to disappear, right? And I'm adjusting my lever as I go. So when it comes to life, the world was made for right-handers, in my opinion. Being a left-handed barber, I feel like the clipper was probably the only thing made in this world for us, because being able to cut hair with my left hand and use my index finger simultaneously as I fade to adjust the lever is a big plus. For most of you guys that are right-handed, when you guys are cutting hair, you guys are going in, pulling out, adjusting with your thumb, and then going back in. Now with time, that takes time. So being left-handed, if you're a left-hander watching, this is an advantage that you can use on yourself. Cut, adjust the lever as you go without ever removing the blade from the head. So now that I see that, to me, I erased that line just good enough for me to be happy. Now, what I'm gonna do is, I'm gonna start my way up. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna use my trimmers now, which are really, really short, shorter than my clippers. And I'm gonna do a mid fade starting at the temple, and I'm gonna drop it underneath the occipital bone. Another reason why it's important to drop your guideline underneath the occipital bone is because you need room for error, room for blending, just room in general. Sometimes when you draw that guideline so high up and a person has a lot of hair on the top, you're only giving yourself about 3 inches to make magic happen. If you're not experienced and you don't know what you're doing, it can be really tough. But if you work your line from down here to the top of the crown, look how much more room we have for error or just room to play with. And that's the goal. I'm gonna create my guideline a lot lower. Same exact concept. I'm not just going in and creating a sharp line, because if you're not experienced enough or you're not familiar with how to erase a bald, sharp line, you're gonna struggle with it. So by going up and scooping out slightly, you're creating a small graduation, allowing us to make it easier to blend later. Once I'm done with that, I'm gonna brush all the hair out. Some of you guys are also wondering why I have a brush. I understand that most barbers, especially back in the day, a lot of barbers used the barber comb, and that's understood. The reason why we use a brush is simply because you need to be able to see what's been cut and what's left. Sometimes it bothers me when I see my students cut hair and there's hair everywhere. So to me, it's like, how can you know what you've already cut? How do you know what you've already cleaned up if you can't tell? If there's hair on his neck, if there's hair inside his ear. So as you can see, I'm always using this brush to completely wipe them down to make sure I know what's left and what isn't. Just makes it so much easier without ever having to go back at the end and retouch something. Once I do that, we're just gonna go up and remove the rest of the hair. Do we have any other questions while I'm cleaning them up? Has anything popped up?
Yeah, what's your comment on sanitizing these equipments, you know, like the brush and things?
Yeah, we have a clipper spray that's a 3-in-1. Do we have it here, Jay? It's it's a clipper spray, it's a 3-in-1. We usually recommend that you spray them 10 to 15 minutes before you start cutting hair. And when you spray down. A lot of the times, barbers will lift their machine up, spray it, and what happens is all that fluid, all the oils goes into the machine and could, with time, mess it up. When you spray the clipper down, you spray around, when you spray the clipper down with the clipper spray and you're facing it down, all the dirt, all that gunk, all that hair falls out. So it's always best to have a towel. You don't want anything falling on the floor as well. Sanitize all your clippers and then your combs and all that, put them in your barber side. Very simple, very easy to do.
Yeah, between every client.
Of course, between every hair client. Now that I've finalized removing the side, now I want to do what's probably one of the hardest things to do right off the bat. Now I can tell by looking at it, but if I stand back, I can tell the harsh line that's in here. But our goal is to transition that in the later run, right? We're gonna go ahead and just start with our shaver. Now this shaver, I get asked all the time, Los, does this shaver get closer than an actual razor blade? And the answer to that is absolutely. A razor blade, you're shaving down, meaning that when you shave down, if you grabbed your finger and went up, you're gonna feel that hair, the little rugged right there. When you use this, it's smooth. You don't feel anything because you're literally getting it down to the cuticle, all the way to the skin. And I do recommend that when you turn it on and you're working on the back end, you use the foil with the two sides. When you're more on the side with a smaller area and finer hair, you want to flip it and just use the bottom foil, which is the bottom one. So we're going to go in a circle motion. Once again, hair does not grow from top to bottom, so there's no need to always go straight up and down. You want to create a nice experience for your client. You go in a nice circle motion. And when we get close to our guy line, we're just gonna tap. The reason why we tap is because these shavers cut so low, it's very easy to create a new guy line. When you create a new guy line, it might be harder to erase, especially if your trimmers aren't adjusted. So for that purpose, when I get close to my guy line, I'm just gonna tap. And this is gonna help me disperse any new lines I create, making it easier to blend. You notice I'm going to the side is because his hair is growing up. Most people tend to get colics towards the back of the neck. So just because you're going down with it doesn't mean you're catching everything. By going up, I'm able to catch all the hair that grows in all directions. And by going in a circle motion, I'm able to do the same. Hold his ear down, let's flip it to the bottom. You get some room, tap, go here. It's okay to tug on the skin, on the ears and all that. A client will let you know, will make a face if they're uncomfortable. But if you're not showing confidence, if you're scared to adjust your client, if you're scared to move their head, it's gonna show, right? Confidence is contagious. The more confident you are, the more confident your client will be. It's very important to understand that a client can also fire you. Just how we can fire them, they can fire you simply by just not showing up or never coming again. They're not always gonna vocalize their opinion. Sometimes them not coming back is, that's it, it's enough said. So with that being said, we're gonna finish this up and carry on with the blend.
So Lo, so far you've used 3 different clippers. Can you go over the technical elements of each one?
Of course. So I have my shaver. This is what gets us bald. If you do not use a straight razor, you can, if someone has a clean face already, you can utilize this, shave it without irritation. Gets it really, really close, by far the closest. I have my actual clipper that I use to do my bald fades. These are 0 gap, allowing me to erase the bald lines. I have my
that has different settings and it has guards and everything, so you can do multiple lengths.
Yeah, multiple lengths. But the thing about this one is that when it's got no guard, it could get the crispiest line out because it's so zero gap. This one isn't zero gap, preferably used on kids, anybody that has sensitive skin, or you just simply want to knock weight off, it'll be easier. And then we have our trimmers, which is what gets us closer to use a shaver. And this is what we use to line people up, their mustache, their beards, all of the above. So 4 tools, each one serves a purpose, each one making your job easier.
And what does no gap mean to you?
No gap. So the best way that I can put it is if I had, I wish I had another comb. So let's just say this is our clipper, right? Let's do this. This is our clipper. This is my still blade, and then this is my moving blade. So when I turn my clippers on, my moving blade goes like that. You see that gap between the moving blade and my finger? When you zero gap it, that means that moving blade goes flush with the still blade. That means you're cutting. If you cut that person in the wrong angle, you might be able to cut their skin, irritate their skin as well. So zero gapping just means you get the moving blade closer to the still blade, allowing you to get really sharp ball fades. Now with our zero, we're gonna work our way up. We're gonna blend this line out and then use our maybe some clipper work, maybe some texturized shear work, and remove that weight so we can get started on the other side. So all I'm doing now is just focusing on the guideline I have down here with my zero gap clippers. And once we do that, we're gonna jump up to our half and then work our way down one more time to finalize the look. Now it's also important, if you're at a salon, for the sake of today and the class for today, I'm cutting behind my model. Normally if I'm at a barbershop, I'll be here, this is where I'm looking. But for the sake of today, you guys are here. It's also important to look from the front and be able to see what type of line work you have from the front, because at the end of the day, this is the most important view. Why? Because this is the view that your clients see themselves in. So if it don't look good from this end, it's not gonna look good to them, no matter how clean the back is. So it's very important to pay attention to that. And I'm just gonna work my way up here. And notice I'm only using my corner cutting right now. My goal is just to eliminate that original guideline and continue blending it until I feel like it's okay. Once I get that going, I'm gonna switch over to my liners. Now remember what I said, my liners are gonna be sharper than my clippers and lower. So this is gonna allow me to 100% remove that bottom guideline we created. And notice I'm only using the corner cutting. Corner cutting is what sets every barber apart from every barber, simply because it allows you to create detail. We all go to school, we all learn the same steps, the same fundamental steps. So people are wondering why, if I went to the same school with him, how come I can't cut better? It's the way you put your detail into your work that'll separate you from the rest.
Can you say that again, please?
Of course.
I think that's a really key point.
People go to school, right? Just like anything else. You go to the basketball camp, you go to anything to learn. We're all gonna learn a basic step, but it's how you apply detail that'll separate you from the rest. So if you put your steps 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, and it doesn't look like somebody else that has been doing great work, you're asking yourself why? Because it's not just about the steps that you applied, it's the detail work that you applied after. And sometimes the detail can take just as long as the entire haircut. So that's kind of how I look at it. Right now I just created my steps, and now the rest of the time we're gonna spend on this side is strictly finessing it, making it my own, creating detail work so it could stand out. So now that I got that out the way here, I'm gonna cut from this back angle to make sure I don't see anything from this way. And then I'm gonna do one last run and try to remove some of that weight to create that nice blend. Now, instead of starting with our number 4 now, we're gonna go with our 3, 2, 1. So this is our number 3. And now my goal is to lean his head back a little bit. And now we wanna remove some of that weight.
When you're working, do you usually have the client facing the mirror, away from the mirror? How do you do that?
So I do understand that when you work at a barbershop, most barbershops are gonna have your client facing the TV. Most barbers like to use the mirror to see what they're doing. I've worked in both. I had to get used to my clients staring at me while I was cutting their hair. I would prefer that way first, simply off of experience. People tend to use the mirror right off the bat. When you cut hair first using your eyes, you master everything you could with your eyes. And then if you spin your client towards the mirror, now you're able to see fresh eyes. You're able to see what your eyes couldn't. That allows you to perfect it. Once you finish that step, pull your camera out, figure that out. You're gonna see a lot more things. That's what I call my fifth eye. Your fourth eye would be your mirror, your fifth eye would be your camera. Sometimes when you start right off the bat using the mirror, you're gonna get so used to seeing what you're seeing in the mirror that it takes no effect, if that makes any sense. So the goal is to do it with your eyes first. When you think you're done, use the mirror. When you think you're done, use your camera. And only then you would perfect your fade. So now I'm just gonna keep working my way down from a 3 to a 2 to a 1.5, just enough to eliminate some of this weight that I have here. Any other questions for us while I kind of just prep the clean work? I mean the detail work?
Yeah, so, you know, about the chair. So you control that instead of let the client do it, right? So you choose when and where the chair is directed.
Of course, meaning like which way it's facing?
Yeah.
Yeah. I personally, yeah, I mean, I think me, when I get my haircuts, I like to sit and relax. I close my eyes, I play on my phone, I'm relaxed. There's no need for me to be staring at the client, at the barber doing his thing and telling him what to do or telling her what to do and how to do it. You know, you gotta let people do them. I've done some of my best work when people just allowed me to do me. And you have to, goes back to building confidence. If I'm sitting Kevin in my chair and I'm like, I mean, do you want to go that short? Because, you know, it's kind of hard to fade if I go so short. Right off the bat, Kevin knows I'm not confident. Right off the bat, Kevin's going to want to keep looking at the mirror because he's like, damn, I don't know. But if I walk in there and like, my energy is amazing and I'm like, man, Kev, this is what we're going to do today, dude. I'm going to give you a nice ball fade. I'm going to crop your top. We're going to style like this. We're going to do this. And I'm so hyped. What am I doing? I'm presenting confidence. This is going to allow Kevin to just be like, bet, let me get on my phone. Let me go to sleep. Let me take a nap. And that is what builds value for yourself, confidence. Confidence is contagious. Pass it along is energy. You get what I mean? Continuing, diffusing weight. Just in time. Now, excuse my back, guys. I really want to get an angle where I can see from all angles. And then from our 1.5, we're going to jump into our 1 again. So notice how I'm repeating the same steps because I needed to build a foundation right off the bat for me to continue working with detail. I needed to know that I could delete those lines and I needed to be confident that I could delete those lines to a point where you couldn't even tell they were there in the first place. And that's literally what we're working on right now. So since I'm only creating detail, I'm not using the entire blade. I'm only using 3 to 4 teeth, which in the barbering industry, we call this corner cutting. Corner cutting is just a way to diffuse weight, to knock out weight, and blend.
So not you specifically, Los, but barbershops in general. Is there a difference between traditional salons in regards to washing a client's hair before working on it?
You know,
what do you find?
It varies. I feel like salons have been doing that for so long, it's almost expected. Whereas in barbers, it's now becoming a thing now because obviously barbers are starting to realize that there's a lot of money in this industry and one way that we can upsell and make more money is if we create an experience. For example, we wash your hair out before work, after work or before your haircut, and we do all these things outside of just cutting your hair. How I was able to create value, I never washed anybody's hair, and this just goes from a real perspective. Like, I understand the value in being a professional and washing someone's hair and all that, but I also understand the value of convenience. Me, myself, I pay for convenience. And what I mean by that is I created value by being able to get people in and out of my shop. Having people being able to plan around their schedule, around their appointment is gold to some people. Some people may have an appointment with you or with someone else and they walk in and for some reason that barber or that stylist is running 30 minutes late, an hour late. That turns your value down. Time is money. It's very important to think about it like that. I've never washed out hair before any client. My goal was to always be on time, and I would cut my client's hair, and I would, more than 9 out of 10, they would shower when they get home. So I would always be like, do you want me to style your hair now, or do you want to shower when you get home? And you'll be surprised how many people be like, I'm gonna shower when I get home, don't worry about it. So right there, I just saved myself time styling his hair. Now it's okay if he's a new client and you wanna show him right off the bat, but when you build somebody that starts eventually coming over and over more and more times to you, you wanna make it convenient for them, right? And if convenient for them means when they walk in, they sit right down, and then in an hour they're done, they can plan their schedule after you. So creating value on time is what set me apart. I was always the barber that was never late, and I took pride in that. Some people think that if you spend hours on a client, that brings more value. But honestly, I've gotten a haircut by people that took an hour and a half, and I was annoyed the entire time because I wanted to just get out. So some people like it, some people don't. Understand your client, understand the people that are in your chair. And when you do that, it'll be easier to operate. All right, now we're gonna run our last guard, which I hope would eliminate the weight that I'm looking for to eliminate. And then we can move on to the other side. Now, remember what I said, 80%. I'm gonna give it just enough where I feel like I'm comfortable to leave it, and I'm gonna come back and operate on this side. So when I finalize and I come back and I get some fresh eyes, I'm able to touch up on things I didn't see the first time. So once again, corner cutting. I'm not trying to use the entire guard because it'll be a lot easier to create a brand new line or a new weight line that we don't want. Once I see what I could do with this angle, we go ahead and move on. Now, another important thing I want to touch on, when you're cutting hair, and odds are that if you're working at a barbershop or a salon, lights are going to be above you. It's very rare that lights are going to be facing in front of you, which is why we got great lighting now. But sometimes you're in a shop, if it's dim, if it's at night, and the light's in front of you, most people I'm on top of you, most people want to bend the client's head like this. Now what that does, when you bend your client's head, the light's gonna hit, everything's gonna look good. Why? Because like everything else, when light hits, it looks beautiful. Why do you think women love taking selfies in front of windows? When that light comes in, everything looks great. But what happens when you're when you're done with the fade, and now you reset that head like that, or they get up and start walking around, the shadows are gonna show you things you didn't see at first. So what I like to do, I stop doing this. One, you're killing your client's neck. They're like this for 45 minutes and then it's annoying. And the other, you're just able to train your eye on how to fade, having them face directly straight forward. And now I'm just touching up little areas before we proceed. Any other questions before we move on to the other side?
Yes, people are asking, like, when you're doing a fade like this, how do you do pricing?
How do we price it?
Yeah, what are some generalities people apply in their own shops?
Now, it depends, right? Because this day and age, you got people like myself that are independent. So people like myself will charge you for their time rather than the service, whereas in a barbershop will charge you for a service rather than the time. If you work at a barbershop, I recommend that you work for somebody that is not just a barbershop owner or a salon owner, but someone who also has experience behind the chair. There's no way that someone that has never cut hair or never been in your shoes can successfully make, and this is from my experience, can make someone happy and truly understand what you're going through. So if a barber that owns a shop, that cuts hair with you guys, is running the shop, they should be able to understand the value in pricing. The value in, it's not just, oh, what neighborhood we live in, we can't afford to charge as much because of the people here. You have to create a value. I worked at a barbershop and I was charging maybe at one point like $80 a haircut, while everybody around me was charging 20. And when I mean around me, I don't mean barbershops around me, I mean people in the same barbershop. And I was able to create value within myself. It was never about who lives in my neighborhood. People would drive 45 minutes, hours, fly in to get a cut. So create values in yourself, and whatever you feel your time is worth, is my opinion. All right, so I'm just finalizing on this. Corner cutting, going back and forth. And it's pretty cool when I stop to talk to you guys, because I'm able to rest my eyes And then when I turn around to look at the cut, I'm able to see things I couldn't see. So sometimes when you're fading too much, stand up, look around, look outside, look at the TV, and then go about it. We are doing great on timing. So right off the bat, you see that? For anybody that's new to cutting hair, can look at this and would never see the lines that we had on here before. It's just a great way to eliminate and operate is what we normally like to say. I like to say operation because we're skilled, we're doctors, man. We create magic. So this is about 80% right here. I'm happy with it. It's gonna allow me to move on and carry on to my next step. I'm gonna come back after I do my other side and finalize it. See things I didn't see, different angles. Now I can use my texture shears to fully detail it and blend all the way out. But for now, I think this is it. And I'm gonna go ahead and spin them and get them on the other side.
So a lot of good compliments in the chat. A lot of people are curious, like what's a guess on average? If you weren't doing this on camera, for a bald fade, it would be 45 minutes for a cut, or?
So, like I said, it varies. It's very, because in all my stages of my career, it was different things all the time. It was never one set thing. And I think people should be very flexible with that. They shouldn't just be hard on themselves and be like, it has to be one way. When I was beginning, I would always try to work on speed. I didn't want to spend an hour on one person for 15 bucks. I would try to like, all right, let me see if I can do it in 30 minutes. And then whatever I did in 30 minutes, if you keep practicing, you're getting better. As I got better, as I got more experience, as my prices went higher, now I don't care what you get. If you want to just get your mustache lined up, I'm booking you for an hour because I charge you for my time. And if I'm giving you a simple haircut in that hour, I can take my time with you, I can conversate with you, I can get to know you, I can do other things outside of just cutting your hair, creating an experience. So it just depends on you and what part in your career you're in. If you're in the beginning, focus on being on point, focus on being sharp, focus on greeting your clients and just being a professional. Once you get to a level of value that people are looking for you now, you're no longer waiting for people to come in and look for you. They're looking for you by name. You're creating value. Now you can create the experience you want, whatever makes you happier. And what made me happier was charging per hour. It didn't matter what you get, because to me, I wanted to know that if I'm gonna work 8 hours, I know exactly what I'm gonna make, instead of trying to figure out or wonder what you're gonna collect at the end of the day. So it just depends on the level of experience and the level in your career, and all that should fluctuate. This is why I always recommend you build a strong foundation to build leverage. Once you build leverage, you can do whatever you want.
So what do you think some of the top prices are for people who charge an hour that are experienced? Like what can people aspire to get to today?
If you cut in celebrities, I know barbers that are cutting celebrities right now between $500 a haircut to $1,500 a haircut. And that's the whole house call service, that's pulling up to your house and doing all that. I was at a point in my career, I was charging $200 a haircut and you had to come to my shop or my salon. And if you wanted me to go to you, it was starting off at $400 or $450 depending. So that was because I valued my time. I knew it would be worth it. If you do something and you feel like you're getting robbed, then there you go. It's not worth your time. But you also have to understand opportunity. If you can see opportunity, do it for free if you have to. I've done a lot of crazy things for free, a lot of crazy haircuts. I've given stuff away simply for opportunity. So understand the difference. If you got Joe Benson from down the block who doesn't do anything for a living, that wants you to go to his house, there is no opportunity there. Now you charge your worth. But if you have a celebrity, someone that inquires your services for so and so, you get the picture, now you're starting to see value and opportunity. You can be more flexible depending on the situation. So that's how I always went about it. Before we kind of start on this side and the fade and all that, I'm gonna go ahead and just do a personal touch. So this is kind of what I was gonna tell people that, hey, Los Cuddy did that haircut. I'm a big design guy. I love doing designs. I'm gonna do something simple, quick. If you're not artistic, it's okay. Use your alphabet letters, use your numbers as inspirations. If I gave everybody a trimmer and I told you guys to pretend this tip was a pen and I told you to sign your signature on someone's head, I guarantee you guys are gonna be so comfortable with it because it's something you guys have been doing for so long. You can create curvature pretending that this was a fat marker. Same concept. If you can't draw, let's use our level 3 pencil, a white one, and let's just create something small. Now, I like to create a focus point when I do my designs, meaning somewhere where the eyes are going to be locked in. One of the first things we see when we look at people is the eyes, is a focus point. So we're going to go ahead and get started. I'm just going to create a nice swirl. Now, when you do designs or anything outside of character, meaning like your basic fundamentals in hair, it's okay to have guinea pigs, people that are willing to let you try things for free. But when it comes to your services and your money making and your business and your time and your hours and all that, there's no friends. Everybody should get a price. Only exceptions, in my opinion, would be family, like your father, your mother, sisters, brothers. Other than that, no friends in this industry, like Drake said. No friends. We're here to make money, and that's all that matters.
Do what Drake says.
Do what Drake says. So, real quick, I didn't dig in the color because obviously we want the color to get removed immediately. So right off the bat, I just kind of drew a nice circle focus point. You may be able to see on camera, may not. Enough so if I really wanted to wipe it down, I can wipe it down. And now I'm gonna go ahead and use my trimmers and create a design. Now, you can create a design using both negative and positive, meaning both a bald line, or you can create a design using hairlines. We're gonna kind of go ahead and do both. So first thing I'm gonna do, I'm gonna create, remember, I'm only using the corner of my liners, right? And I'm just gonna go over that white line that I did. So as soon as I carve that out, you instantly see, now this is a rough draft. You don't have to make it perfect, and I'm gonna explain to you why. I carve that out, I can wipe the color right off now. Now, since we created a line, a bald line that goes like this, you're also creating, if you pay attention, a hairline that's around, outside of it. You guys see that? So you create a bald line, also creating a negative and a positive. Once I do that, I like to trim my hair down to a number 1. Simply because when we apply enhancements, we want our hair to be shorter, flush to the skin, allowing us to get a more precise, clean cut. Right? So since that's the 1, now we're gonna go ahead and work the fade in before we continue with the design. So I'm gonna start from that 3, that 2, 1.5, all the way down to the 1. Then we're gonna finish the design and taper them out. It's a lot of writing. 3.
So when it comes to pricing, we were speaking yesterday, you know, there's the opportunity, once you have a clientele, you can raise prices. Some of those clients might leave, but then that gives you more room to fill with new clients at that new price.
So that's
don't be afraid of that once you've mastered your skill, but that's the important thing. I think Shannon King on the chat on here, Los, like he said it right. Like you can get paid as a return on the investment that you invest in your education and your skill.
100%.
So the more y'all learn, the more y'all work, the better you do, the more you can raise your prices. Another tip that somebody wrote in here is to like notify your clients it's going to be going up so that they know ahead of time, and then remind them beforehand so that they're on board with it.
Here's how I see it based off my personal experience, that the reason why a lot of people don't go up in prices is because you guys are tied down without realizing it, meaning you're emotionally invested. And anybody that you know is a boss, a CEO, or I mean, we see it from the movies, you gotta be heartless, you gotta be cold, right? Because it's a business world. But at the end of the day, it's okay to lose clients for the right reasons. We all get fired, we all lose people because we're late, because we're unprofessional, because we curse. There's a lot of reasons. I can give you a list for days on why we lose clients. But no one's ever talking about losing clients for the right reasons. If you feel like you're good, if you feel like you created this value and the proof of concept is there and you're cutting 120 people like I was a week and you're just breaking your back 12 hours a day, that's the proof of concept. That tells you, and this is why I've always said it, right? If you're too busy, you're too cheap. The goal is to move up in prices. When you lose people and the people that stay, say that you go up double. And I mentioned earlier, I was telling him, I was like, you never want to go up $5 to $10 because when you go up $5 to $10, people tend to stay. And the goal is to get rid of people. So how much should we go up? Double. If you're charging 40, go up to 80. Yeah, you might lose 40, 50% of your clients, but now that 40, that 60, that 50% that stayed is paying you double, making up for the people you lost, and now you gain 40% of your time, which to me became way more valuable because with that time I was able to expand in photography, videography, I was able to expand in building more clients at that price, which I did, and when I got to fully booked at 80, I went up to 100, 120. Eventually I got to 200 because I was trying to get rid of so many people that I almost felt like I was getting people for 200. I'm like, man, you're paying 200 for a car, I guess. And it became something where I was like, you know what, it's time I separate and just create, just do me, create art, hair art. And that's where I'm at today, and I'm probably the happiest I've ever been. So here we are. So now I trimmed down from a 3, 2, 1, made it nice and flush. And now we can carry on with the design. And I'm just simply gonna create a border around it. Now, like I mentioned earlier, there's a lot of people out here that say they're not artistic, that there's no way in hell they're gonna ever create this and create that. You don't have to do this. This is what I do. If you want to do a heart, anyone could draw a heart. You want to do a triangle, anyone could do a triangle. You want to draw a line, you want to do a Z, a zigzag. There's so many very simple shapes that people can do. You don't have to necessarily create a whole masterpiece and feel like you have to. Sometimes people just want a simple line that goes from here to here. Understanding how to do it and being confident in doing so, and even using a white pencil to help you with their confidence, it's always going to be key. You never want to turn down a client for something you can't do. It's nothing worse than having somebody show you something and then you feel that inside like, oh, I can't do that. You know, and with all my years of experience, I was able to build that skill level to anything you showed me, I was able to do. And if I couldn't do it, guess what? I knew somebody that could, and I would try my hardest to work with that person and get the service done. You never want to just turn people away because you're limited. Remember that. So now I'm gonna I got my focus point. I'm gonna create a soft ending. And what I mean by soft ending is just a nice little line, nothing crazy. Right, look at that, nice little simple line. And then you want to create a soft beginning. Now we all get stuck, right? I'm not saying I'm stuck, but now I'm not gonna move as fast as I want to because I really want to step away and know what I want to do. So I'm gonna pretty much just draw this right here, this little hook. You want your cut to be balanced, your design to be balanced. If you haven't noticed yet, I'm gonna share something with you guys as soon as I finish this. So, what's one thing we could notice right off the bat when you look at my designs? Right? You guys are probably wondering, you're probably naming a lot of things that are correct. But the one thing that I can share with you guys, there is not a single straight line on this design. People always ask, how do you create curvature? How do you create these round shapes and all that? The same way we create curvature when we line somebody up, the same way we create curvature when you go around their ear. You get what I mean? The reason why I don't create straight lines is because the only way a straight line is going to look good on a design is if you're looking at it from one angle, which is the angle that you created it. Now, I don't mean a straight line like a part here. Obviously, if you do a part, it'll be nice, or steps, however people, the terminology they wish to use. But if you do a design and you create straight lines, it's only going to look good at that angle, because if you look at it from the front, that straight line is going to curve because our surface is round. If you look at it from the back, that straight line isn't going to be straight anymore because our surface is round. So creating curvature lines everywhere, no matter what angle you look at it, it's gonna be nice and curved, fitting for our surface, for our round surface. This is why tattoos and all that are made to be wrapped in the way that they go around. So it makes sense.
No, that's great advice. That's a great tip.
Thank you.
Do you keep up with, you know, IG and TikTok to get inspiration for a lot of the work you do?
Do I keep up with it?
Yeah, like
Oh
do you
my
gain
God.
a lot of inspiration from what you see?
I do keep up with it. You have to. I think a lot of people fail to understand that when it comes to social media, it's literally a part-time job. You know what I mean? It's a whole, not even a part, it's a full-time job. What you put in is what you get out of it. One thing that I wanted to touch on real quick too was you want to focus on creativity and just always innovating, move forward. Don't worry about the past. Don't worry about what you did. Don't be hard on yourself on what you did. Always just try to make the best thing moving forward. I know for myself, it's okay to get inspired. It's not okay to copy. What I mean by that, if I do a design and you copy the exact same design, same thing I did, people will only react the same way to the same thing once. Let me say that again. People would react the same way to the same thing once, meaning that if I do a design and you did the same design, I'm gonna get more for putting it out there first, more love, more this, more that, than someone that is gonna replicate it. But if you get inspiration from my design and you make it your own by adding or taking or something, and you make it your own, now people are gonna really get on it. And it's always good to pay attention to see what's trending on Instagram, what's trending on YouTube, what's trending on TikTok. By knowing what's trending, it'll be easier for you guys to stay relevant. Now, when I mean trending, I don't mean put your phone on and start dancing and making dancing videos, but if you hear a song that's been all over the radio or a song that's been all over social media, maybe make a video using that song. Maybe do something that's gonna allow people to get that familiar sound and wanna watch your content. So all I'm doing now is finally creating my guideline to the back so we can continue fading. And because we left off with our number 1, all we have to utilize is our half and our 0 to blend that in. A quick little dust. What do you guys think of the design so far? Clean, decent? I'm talking for the people in here. What do you guys think?
I think we're liking it, man.
All right, so I'm gonna just simply fade that out. I wanna keep the bottom of this design darker, so I wanna be able to see that transition. I just wanna make sure I'm good on time before we cover any crazy or get into any heavy conversation. Because once we finish this design, the rest will be smooth sailing. All right, so I'm gonna grab my 0.5. Now, a lot of people do ask me why I go so short when I create my designs. Like, Los, why do you go to a number 1? I usually like to do a number 2 because it looks darker and this and that. And everyone has their reasons. The reason why I go to a number 1 is because I always apply enhancement. Now, what's more important than just getting clients in your chair nowadays? There's more to it, right? It's creating content. And sometimes when creating content goes, you gotta find a way to work smarter. What I mean is, I'm not gonna sit here and bleach someone's hair and put it on design just for content. I'd rather cut corners and color it with something that's easily removable. So if somebody sees it online and they want that as a service, now I can give them the real deal, something that'll last longer, be more permanent, and charge for my time. So the technique that I'm gonna share with you guys today would be how to enhance your design so it can catch people's eyes. And if somebody were to come and ask for that and pay you for that, then you can go ahead and apply your actual preference of color that'll last longer. But at the end of the day, we didn't spend so much time creating the content.
What are some of the most challenges you face in doing content? Is it inspiration? Is it executing the editing? What is it?
Oh, you ready for this? It's understanding what this new damn generation likes. I'm 34 years old, and there's times where my videographer, one of my good friends, videographer, he's 23. And there's times where he gave me ideas or he told me to switch things up, and I'm like, no, dude, that's not gonna work. Are you serious? He's like, dude, do it, trust me. And I did it, and it would hit, it would go viral, it would get a lot of love. And it was only then when I started realizing, like, okay, what I like isn't always right. What my generation like, is it always gonna be right? Did our parents like what we like? No. So you have to understand, you have to stay relevant by working with people that are younger, hungry, and artists are their own, and being open-minded to all of that. So if you're somebody now watching this that, for example, lost their fire, that doesn't understand this generation and thinks, oh, I don't need to do that, that's not me, that's not that, you're already setting yourself for failure. Work with people that are younger than you. Understand what's in, understand what's hot. And that'll help you in your career. And maybe light that fire back up.
You have any consistency tips on posting?
Consistency tips on what?
On posting, like I'm referring to Instagram specifically, or you can talk about TikTok.
So my tips, based on where I'm at, Chicago, I like to post early in the morning, 6 a.m., before 8 a.m. I like to post between 12 and 1 p.m. And I like to post late, between 9 and 11 p.m. Why? Because those are the times when people are waking up. What's the first thing people do when they wake up? They grab their phones. Lunch hours, 12, 1 o'clock. People are stuck in traffic, they're on lunch, they need something to watch, boom, your content. And then before we go to sleep, what do? We're on our phones. Those are the goals for that. And you always want to have at least one post a day. You never want to flood your post consistently. You have more than one. Post one, maybe 2 a day max. You stretch it out. If you want to post constant, post on your stories. Give people a reason to watch. Now that we're done with that, we're gonna go ahead and create our, actually go ahead and I'm gonna define this a little more, but we're gonna go ahead and start using our razor to define this line. Just make it a little crispier, a little sharper, so when we go ahead and utilize our razor, it'll be easier to maneuver. And I hope you guys can see it. If not, for sure you'll see it once it's enhanced and cut off with the blade. What's the time check, guys? How much time we got?
We have 20 minutes.
20? Beautiful. I can carve that out in 10, put some product in his hair, and be good. All right. Never put a razor blade on a blade holder. Best way to do it, you grab a razor blade, you snap it in half. When you snap it in half, you rip them apart, keeps them both in their packages, making it safe. Then we grab one. This is a push blade, allowing you just to simply push it up. You got 2 little holes here. You want to apply it, get it in there. This is a brand new blade, so it's got to get used to it, and you slide it back down. That easy. Never used one, want to learn how to use? I recommend you don't shave a balloon 1,000 times, because you can shave 1,000 balloons, and I hand you someone like Kevin, and it's not going to be the same. You want to be able to learn on skin. Best way to do it, practice on your thighs. Why? Because you're able to use 2 hands. The hair on your thigh is very fine, allowing you to understand skin. I'm gonna grab my shaving gel from Level 3, very small amount, you don't need too much. And we just apply it, we saturate it. Beautiful thing about this shaving gel is that it allows you to also have this, what do I want to call it? This friction to stay in control. It's not too slippery. And if it dries up, add a little bit of water and you reactivate it and we're good to go. I'm gonna stretch the skin. Always keep the skin nice and tight, allowing you to create detail. Now, any questions while I'm doing this? I would hate to
yeah, somebody asked earlier about your body positioning. You know, when you're doing designs or just fading, it's like a very meticulous, focused art. Mm-hmm. How do you stand to make sure when you do that all day, it's comfortable and you know you can have long-term flexibility?
Well, it's different, right? Because I'm out here educating in front of the world. The one thing that I've learned not to do is to do this. I've recorded plenty of videos myself in my past experiences where I'm so into getting it right that I forget the camera or the audience is behind me, and I'm constantly blocking them. With my experience being on stage, I was able to learn how to work this way. Now, is this the most comfortable way? Absolutely not, but it's the best way for you guys to see exactly what I'm doing. But normally, if I was at the shop setting or if I was somewhere where I wasn't being filmed or I wasn't educating, I would literally just be right on target, right in front of our model, making sure everything looks good and is aligned properly.
Can you talk a little bit about the blade you're using?
Yes, this is our level 3.
This is new to a lot of people.
Yes. So this is our level 3 red blade, which is awesome because as soon as I pull it out, let me see if I get nice focus on it. Can you guys get focus on it? It's about, I don't even know, what is it, 1/16 sticking out, which is very little, allowing you to just focus on your corner and the bottom. So treat it like a trimmer. Just because it's a 1-inch blade doesn't mean you're using the entire blade. Use the corner to create fine lines and curvature the way I'm doing. Now, if you see me stretch the skin out, I'm only using the corner to create it. And if I have to switch, I stretch the skin out and I use the tip to carry on. And like I mentioned earlier, if you're really intrigued about using a razor blade, practice on yourself. Practice on a thigh, right? Your thigh will free up both your hands. It allows you to get a forward stroke, a back stroke, and it also allows you to understand skin, meaning that if you cut yourself, at least now you understand the pressure it took or the mistake that it took to cut yourself. And if you cut yourself, you'll be a lot more comfortable working on someone's neck rather than doing a balloon and latex 1,000 times and then getting somebody with real facial hair. It'll be a big difference. So we're almost done carving this out. Any other things I could touch on before we finish this up?
Yeah, someone's asking if you've ever been able to do this with a box shaver.
With a box shaver?
Yeah.
What's a box shaver?
I'm not sure, but there's a difference between what cosmetologists can use and barbers because it's not included in the license.
So they have a feather razor. The feather razor has a guard. You can still get it nice and tight. You guys ever seen those little lime pink or the lime green, not lime pink, the pink and the lime green, like little razor blades you do for your eyebrows? They have a guard on it. Those get it really close. If you're not allowed to use a straight razor, feel free to use that. It'll get it closer than your trimmers would and very easy to use. So all I'm doing here is just finalizing on this design real quick.
So someone asked if people need to be professional or barbers to use level 3.
I don't think so, right, Jay? I think.
No, you can go. I'll paste the link here.
You'll be able to purchase it at your. If you were to go to a barbershop or a salon that carries level 3, you'll be able to purchase it yourself and use it yourself. Definitely recommend it. I'm just not aware. I'm not sure if you have to. I don't think you have to be licensed to go to a store, do you, Jay? Yeah, I think you go anywhere and it's for the public. So right now we just finished up the design. Very natural look, nice and flush. Once again, I like to remove the hair that's been cut off to know what's left and what I need to touch on.
So with this shave gel, that's comfortable to the client's skin, huh?
Absolutely. It just makes it easier because it's nothing worse than creating a design, let's just say, where you're trying to like obviously take a photo or a video of it and there's skin irritation everywhere. And there's a lot of people in the industry that have very heavy hands and can easily mark you up for irritation. Now, if I had him bleeding, if I had him irritated and super red, would I be comfortable with taking photos after this? Probably not.
Can you move
now,
a bit?
would he have time to come back hours later to take a photo? Probably not. So it's very important to have the right tools that'll make your job easier, but at the same time, you also want to be very light-handed.
Can you spin a bit?
Spin?
Yeah, you're kind of blocking the camera.
See what I mean? Even I mess up and get in the zone and just start blocking stuff.
An artist at work.
So right off the bat, we got our design completed. Now, just to kind of save some time, I'm gonna style his hair real quick before we throw the enhancement on the design and just kind of get it going. And before just by coming back here, I'm already seeing things that I need to touch up on this side, which is great. This is why we do 80%. I'm gonna go ahead and grab our texture powder, which is here. Texture powder is amazing. Our level 3 texture powder, you comb the finger so it can get right in your roots. And what this is gonna do is gonna help you create one texture and create volume as well. So this is gonna be our foundation. Now we're gonna be able to cocktail our products simply by putting one for the base and then one for the root. So we got our matte paste cream, which is amazing because all you need is probably like a tad bit, just like that. And the goal when applying it, I like to personally get it in the center of my hand. And then I mix it in a sense where it's no longer visible. And then I just focus on the very tips. Now, when we had our consultation, he asked me, don't take my corners up too high because he's very fine. One thing that I focused on right off the bat, you didn't want to take any of that off. And just kind of comb the hair in. Give it a nice flat texture. And because he got dark roots, the texture is going to be so much easier. So one of the things I like to do, whether I'm using a comb or my fingers, I do a crisscross. This is going to allow you to kind of create these nice points sticking out, especially with the color. And then maybe square them up by lifting the little horns up here. Flatten up the center. Keep the front very rugged, very natural. Twist the tips. Let that sit in for a little bit.
So someone's asking, had you pre-cut the top?
No.
But he had recently had, if somebody missed the beginning, he had recently had his hair done and had a design line on one side. And so Los went through and actually faded that and then did a design on the other side. And so it was working with the prior work up top, just kind of...
So I did, and you guys may or may not know, I did what 90% of barbers or just hairstylists in general hate doing, is cutting up other people's work. Fresh. He was only, how many days? A couple days, like 4 days old, and we were able to create a whole different look just off of what he had already. So before we go ahead and create our design, enhance our design, I'm gonna turn him around to the fade side and I'm gonna touch up whatever I think I can touch up to make it just a little better on the fade before we go ahead and add color enhancements. So right off the bat, when I spin them, I can see how heavy this area is. This is what I couldn't really see from the very beginning because, like I mentioned, you get tunnel vision. You think you got it until they move around, they leave, or you see them in public at a bar the next day and you're like, damn, who cut you up? And it's your work. Now I'm able to come back with fresh eyes, and now I can touch up just a little bit more. Now, for those of you guys that has been with us since the beginning, you guys already remember what he had, right? Those two heavy weight lines, and we were able to blend those out. And I kind of walked you guys through the exact steps of what I would normally do and how I would approach it. Doesn't mean it's the only way. It just means it's how I decided to do it at this moment. And then once I finish up with what I'm doing here, I'm gonna turn from this angle so I can see the front of the cut. Corner cut, corner cut, corner cut. And then touch this area up here before we proceed. And then the last thing I wanna do before we call it one, mind you, look, I'm only corner cutting. So if you guys see how high I'm working up here, do not think that I'm using the entire clip or the blade, to be up here. I'm literally only corner cutting, which would be equivalent to only using one tooth to separate any weight that I see. Once I get that going, we're gonna go ahead and get started with our enhancement, which is where's our black pencils at? So level 3 also has color pencils and color to be able to enhance anything you want. Because we're working with fine lines, I'm gonna go ahead and just use my pencils. It'll be a lot easier. Now, how I personally like to do it is you don't want to just draw like you would draw on paper. You want to just lightly tap, create a line, and just color it in the way you would if you were on a book. So this is probably where it's more time to do, right? This is something that's gonna be tedious, that most people won't have the patience for, but as an artist, this is probably my favorite thing to do, is just enhance the color. There are plenty of techniques and different ways to go about doing what I'm doing. You just have to find one that works for you. So we keep doing that, and right off the bat, you could already see it's bringing some type of contrast towards us. I'm gonna start poking. Now, the reason why I like to poke it instead of just drawing it in is because it's giving the illusion that it's like hair. You wanna keep it nice and dark, but at the same time, you don't want it to look like he's got marker on his head. Give that nice contrast look. The front, where that's a lot finer, we're gonna go ahead and focus on that.
So do you send some of these pencils with clients so they can do this also for?
I do not. So this goes back to my point of doing content. Instead of having to apply real color, letting it sit, washing them out, and doing all that, I can do something that's easier, which would be a pencil. I can take a photo, I can do a video like that. If someone came in and said, I want this, then I would go ahead and apply the real deal. So we're cutting corners to create content. Same way as if McDonald's, when they take pictures of their burgers, and you think that's what it's really gonna look like, but it doesn't, they use things that aren't real food to create the visual that that's what it is that you're getting. Same exact concept. They cut corners, we cut corners, magazines cut corners with Photoshop and all that. It's a way of marketing yourself. And it's nothing wrong with that, in my opinion.
And so this then just washes out.
Yeah, you can shower
if
up.
somebody brings this picture in from your IG, then you do real color.
Exactly, and get paid for it.
Yep.
So don't be afraid to, I get a lot of people that ask me like, Lowe's, how do you get people that walk into your shop and ask you for these crazy cuts? Like, no one ever walks in and asks me for that. And I'm like, no one will ever walk in and ask me for that. I go and look for people. Sometimes I have to pay people, sometimes I have to give free services and in order for me to get what I want. And when you're able to do that, that's how you're able to grow faster. If you sit around and wait for people to ask you, it'll never happen. And you'll just stay stagnant, in my opinion. Oh, messed up. I didn't even realize I had that little corner that I had to cut off.
So there's been two trends recently in barbering. I'd love you to touch on them while you're finishing this. One is color on men, and then the other one is crossover.
Yes.
Did you touch on those?
Now, when you say color on men, what is it that you mean exactly?
Yeah, this is, I mean, there's a lot of men are doing, a lot of barbers are getting into color, both graphic colors, creative colors, and just, aging colors for gray.
Yeah, I think it's just a way of the industry evolving. I've said it plenty of times. We're in an age where men are growing their hair out and women are cutting their hair down. Guys are trying to get more knowledge in product and they're trying to color their hair and experiment. And women are getting fades and designs. If you go to my Lowe's Cutted page, you see that I work with 90% women with short hair, with crazy designs, crazy looks. It's just a sense of evolving. And if I had to give you guys a tip to kind of grow, pay attention to what used to be hot. Everything recycles. You see the mullet coming back. You guys see the most famous haircut to me was what we called at the time the Superman haircut, which is the comb over with the part. You see, remember that hard part with the comb over that 90% of the guys would walk into the shop and get that? Why? Because it's such a universal haircut that it allows you to go to church with it. It allows you to go to a business meeting, to an interview. You can go out to the club with it. It's a very universal cut that made it very, very popular. So pay attention. I remember when that comb over came out almost 8 years ago, and I was like, oh, hell no, really? This is coming back? And now it became a thing. Same thing with the mullet. When I saw the mullet coming back, I was like, no way. And then now, we just did one earlier today. So everything that used to be hot comes back. So with our last 5 minutes, I would love to answer some few questions while I...
Yeah, something about the crossover program.
Oh yeah, what was the okay, so the crossover. How can I touch on that? One way to really speak on it was, in 2016, I crossed over simply because I wanted to expand my knowledge. I was at a point where in my career, I felt like I was good at barbering, like really, really good at barbering. And I wanted to see what else I can do. So I figured women, longer hair would be my thing. And I went to school and quickly realized that cutting women's hair wasn't for me. It was not for me. It was a whole different world from barbering. But what I did learn, all these techniques with longer hair, who knew that it would help me out now that men are growing their hair out? Styling, all that good stuff. So I was able to expand my knowledge. And to me, knowledge is power. The more knowledge you have, the more knowledge you acquire, more powerful you will become and unstoppable. So never stop growing. If you don't want to go to cosmetology school to understand long hair and women hair and all that good stuff, go to the best university there is out there. And it's free. It's called YouTube. Remember that.
So listen, 10 times throughout this, people are asking, can we please go from the beginning and you talk about which tools you used and the products?
Oh my God.
And you can just do it generally. So you started out with a babyless clipper.
So, because we're short on time, I'm gonna finish this probably my own time. You guys kind of get the idea. You keep touching it up until it begins this rich, dark, good look, but the design is there. He washes it off, the design is there. If you want to go back to the beginning, which was what exactly?
No, they just want to know, like, you use 3 different clippers. Just go over those and then some of the products you use to create all this.
Yeah, so let me just make sure his style is right where I want it. So, very beginning, I use 4 tools. And I'm gonna break them down exactly on what they are. These are custom effects from Babyliss. These are customizable, which is why I got the color grade that I got. But most importantly, these ones are zero gap with a fading blade, which means the blade is a lot finer, thinner, allowing me to get a closer blend when it comes to actually fading. These, on the other hand, have a round blade. So I use these more for like knocking out weight. If I just wanted to blend faster, or I got a kid in my chair and you want clippers that aren't as sharp. So these are always a go-to. And sometimes when you do cut hair, your clippers do get warm. So it's always nice to go back and forth with them so you can keep a cool touch. Your T-liner blade, T-line, always recommend it. It makes it easier to create lines, whether you're lining somebody up or creating a design. And last but not least is our shaver, which, oh, there it is. It's hidden. So this is our shaver. It's a dual head shaver. One of the strongest out in the industry today, and I strongly recommend it. This is used for giving your client an extra 2 days of freshness by simply going by underneath the temple, nape area, cleaning them up in between haircuts, or if they needed to shave and get a clean shave and you can't use a straight razor, this will be perfect around the entire face. So to me, that's all I need. A pair of shears on top of that, and you're ready to go.
I'm gonna jump in here with you. A lot of people also are asking all about Level 3 and the brand. So you guys can go to L3VEL3.com and see everything. And a lot of people want to know how to be on the team and work with the brand and all this. And this kind of applies to most brand sponsorships, ambassadorships, or you know, education opportunities is. You need to engage with it. You need to use it. You need to master it. You need to engage on social. Try and go to shows and events and get to meet the people. Reach out to people on the team directly. So whether that's, you know, any type of thing you want to work with in the industry, that's how to do it. And I'm sure that's probably exactly how Level 3 would want you to do it as well.
Can I touch on that?
Yeah, please.
So you said when you came in here, you said a lot of people want to know how to get on Level 3 or be sponsored. The best way to do it, stop worrying about it. It's that simple. Build your own brand. I use this analogy all the time. You think Michael Jordan or LeBron James or Kobe Bryant was calling Gatorade or Nike and was like, hey, you see me, right? How can I get on? Well, they did. They just focused on themselves. They focused on their skill, and they became great. And when you become great, when you do you, everyone calls. And that's it. I think too many people are focused on getting signed rather than focusing on building themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So
no, it's great advice.
That's what I have to say about that. That's how it happened with me. People ask me, how did you get on? I'm like, I don't know. I just did Los Cut It, and Los Cut It got a call.
Yeah.
That's simple.
No, it makes total sense. Obviously, focus. You guys are already investing in your skill and your talent. Continue to do that. But then obviously, if there is a specific brand you want to work with, go after it like you mean it. And I'm sure they will respond because we've spoken with many educators and ambassadors about that.
Now, what do you think of that answer?
I think it's a great answer. I think it's twofold, you know. I like to get my piece in there too. But no, you're right on. Because obviously no one's going to care if you're not really focused on investing in yourself and doing great work. That's obviously the key.
100%.
That's step one. But that's already a great step that everybody's here. And there's been incredible feedback. A lot of compliments to you
awesome.
on the chat. So thanks everybody for doing that and sharing questions. This video, it's all live of course now, but it's going to be edited and in the miladytraining.com platform soon. So if you missed the beginning or whatever, you can always go back and it'll be the edited version, maybe a little shorter, but that's always available to you. And then at the end, you can always get your certificate. And remember to tag Los Cut It, LV3 Pro, Stylez app, so we can give you some recognition as well.
Yeah, and once again, thank you guys for watching. On behalf of Level 3 Stylez Studio, we're here making history, and I hope I was able to share some great value for you guys, and hope I was able to light that fire back up. And do not forget, as soon as we're done with this, we're gonna do a special giveaway. We didn't forget about you guys. We're doing 5 giveaways, right?
Yeah, we'll post that on social.
Okay.
Maybe within an hour if you're watching live. It'll be on all 3 level. LV3 Pro, Los Cut It, and Stylez app. But yeah, there'll be a giveaway you guys can participate in. And
stay tuned for the finished photos. Once we get off live, I'm probably gonna take an extra couple minutes, finish up the design, really get the look going, and we're gonna take some after shots. So if whatever reason the image wasn't clear on camera, it'll be clear with the photos, and you guys will be able to see.
Yeah, right on.
Cool.
Thanks everybody for tuning in. Have a great day. See you next time. And thank you, Los.
Thank you.
Thank you, Level 3, for being part of this.
Woo!